We'd like to welcome you to BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth. Wow, Mr. Charles Robinson.
How you been doing, Donnie?
I've been good. I've been good.
You been watching the election process?
Yeah.
So what'd you think?
It was well. We pretty much knew what it was going to be from the onset, particularly with so many challengers.
Yeah, well, first of all, let me thank you because you held one of the forums that you asked me to moderate, and you know, always, and I've said this constantly, it's important for our politicians to face the public, to ask the crucial and critical questions.
That's what Jane Miller said on
Right.
TV Hill this week.
Right, and it's also important that, you know, you hear from people who aren't necessarily your supporters, because at the end of the day, that will actually help you as opposed to hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this campaign seemed to evolve around two major issues, which I thought were minor issues. Obviously, the big money issue was about the property tax decrease. Yes, it's important, but I think, and I'll revert back to Mr. Perennial Candidate's constant mantra, it's about jobs, jobs,
Frank
and
M.
jobs.
Conaway.
Yes, and let me say this, you know, Frank has been talking that message for a long time. I think the problem is it's been kind of lost because people are looking at sometimes much bigger issues, but it is about, you know, employment. You know, how do we increase the amount of employment that is coming into the city? I think the bigger issue was this whole question of whether or not do we have downtown development or do we have community development? Because I think, I know a lot of people told me while I was on the campaign trail, hey Charles, how come they can't spend some of that money out in the community? So that was another issue. Last but not least, I think if you are an African American in this city, you have come into contact with the Baltimore City Police Department in some way, shape, or form, either by asking for help or even by being stopped by somebody. And I just think that is always a big issue. And the bigger question, I think,
What's the issue in there?
was how many police do you need to police the city?
Well, she promised. The mayor promised more police officers.
Right. Well,
300
I
more.
understand. I understand why she has to promise more, but I think it's a question of management. Understand this: we had a number of police officers convicted and plead guilty to crimes. And I'm not talking about little stuff. I'm talking about, you know, a major corruption scandal over towing, a major corruption scandal over drugs. This is not a good thing.
What do we expect from a Mayor Rawlings Blake administration over the next 4 years?
I think the bigger question,
Presuming that
she makes it through the general election. Let me just
no,
tell you,
presuming that she will face Sheila Dixon in 4 years.
I don't think that's going to happen.
No?
I don't think that's going to happen.
I do.
Well, good luck. Good luck. Good luck. I just think that, you know, it's important that people understand that the next mayor of this city has got to find an economic dynamic to get this city moving and grooving again. You know, I talked once about if tourism is our biggest industry in this town, then we should exploit it. How come we're not getting any black conventions in this town? I asked
Black
that question.
conventions?
Yes, I'm talking
because
like,
there's this presumption that maybe black people aren't treated well
trust
in
me,
Baltimore.
let me just tell you that.
So why would blacks from other states want to come here?
Well, there are a couple of reasons why, and let me just point them out. First of all, airfare is very cheap to come here. You can fly Southwest here from basically any major city across the country for about $49, $59 one way, okay? That's the first thing. Also, hotel prices are relatively inexpensive. The bigger question is, will we see a push to exploit that? And let me say, I love the fact that we've got the African American Heritage Festival, but what about other festivals across the country that happen? They have a lot of black folks coming to town. How come we can't get an NCAA basketball, football? We get lacrosse
Well,
already.
maybe it's because the politicians, our politicians, haven't lobbied for such.
Shame on them.
Well, but I
them.
saw certain politicians lobby for the Grand Prix.
You know what?
And
you can do the same thing to get an HBCU school. Don't get me wrong. I love the fact that Morgan and Howard played up in New York. Why can't they play that down here at the M&T Bank Stadium? They used to do that at one point. How come we can't get Howard played somebody like Alcorn and Morehouse down at RFK? You mean to tell me we can't get that here? Come on now.
But there has to be a political will
Well,
that
it's,
supports.
I don't say political. You have to have some political chutzpah and smarts to make these kind of things happen. Last but not least, let me say this. The other big major employer, and a lot of people don't recognize this, is that port. For all those ships down here.
Port of Baltimore.
The Port of Baltimore brings more revenue to the city than any other major manufacturer. God love Under Armour. I think they do wonderful things, but let me tell you, they manufacture all that stuff in China, okay? Because it's cheaper to do it there. But the one thing we can do, we need to exploit the things that we do best. We got a great harbor, we got great ports. Let's see if we can exploit that.
Good deal. Any final thoughts?
No, I just keep doing what you're doing, Donnie.
Oh, well, anything to explain the poor turnout. It was to be expected.
It's been, unfortunately, this is a trend. It is not just a phenomenon. It is a trend because we've gone through 3 successive elections where the percentages have gone downhill. Maybe by the time we get to a general election, and that's the other thing they're going to probably have to start looking at. Do we need to turn the election schedule to put it towards a presidential year? The reason why they took it off that was because the amount of money that people could raise, people were caught up against those 2 things. So,
good deal. Thank you for all that you do, and keep doing it.
oh, thank you a whole lot, Donnie, and keep watching BeMoreNews.com.
The news before the news, where
See
we
ya.
uncover the truth.